Alrighty. So we left off with the clerics and how you can interpret the. Well, now these are the gods of the Forgotten Realms. You can easily translate this into a domain of another of your choosing. Remember, what is presented in Acquisitions Incorporated is offered as an idea that you can run with and put this in your own homebrew world if you don't want to set it on Toril. You can put it in Greyhawk. Run an Acquisitions Incorporated in Barovia, of all places. You know, these gods don't exactly exist there, or if so, they're more distant. But it's a fun way to think about. You know, if I am dedicated, you know, to the goddess of trade, it seems obvious, but in what sense? What might she enforce or overlook? And so this supplement was good for that. Now for Druids. My plan for creating an intern tier consisting of nothing but giant ants would allow us to increase productivity by 37%. Who's with me? At first glance, Druids might not seem the best fit for an Acquisitions Incorporated campaign, with its frequent forays into urban settings and its focus on treasure, procurement, and business considerations. But the primal power wielded by Druids reflects the relentless cycles of nature, which in turn make a remarkably prescient model for business. Growth and stagnation, boom and bust, it's all there. Writ large in the passage of the seasons and the ancient dance of bigger creatures consuming smaller creatures. And let's face it, those smaller creatures probably had it coming to them. Some of the most lucrative ruins and monster lairs happen to be located inconveniently in the uncivilized wilds of the world. As an Acquisitions Incorporated druid, your specialty is getting your party into and out of such areas with maximum profit and minimum bloodshed. Well, yours anyway. When a veritable army of natural things that want to eat you stands between your franchise and profit, you're the only one the other party members are looking at for guidance. Almost as importantly, every adventuring group bent on exploiting the natural world to gain resources and power needs a conservation expert to tell them when they've gone too far. After all, only fools would destroy their environment in the name of vast profits, right? Fallon says, Omen Dran, the AC Inc. CEO, would love for you to open up franchises in Barovia and Greyhawk. Is that something the character is actually, is that a quote, or is that just because the CEO wants to expand and have a finger in every pie, in every pocket dimension that exists? Branding is everything. Whenever you take on a wild-shaped form, you do so with a unique bit of personal style that lets folks know you're a beast to be reckoned with. Your pelt is rich hues of gold and silver so bright that they reflect light. When you take wild-shaped form, it's a painful, squelchy process that usually leaves your fellow adventurers queasy. No one ever said it had to look pretty or feel good. I mean, some people might call it a curse. A dark patch on your body is recognizable as the silhouette of Omen Dran. You always have twigs, leaves, and other refuse tangled in your fur or hair. In every pie. In canon, he's working out opening a franchise in Ravnica. Oh, okay. Nature in unlikely places. Even the most urban of locations feature sites of natural beauty and primal energy. You quickly become familiar with all such locations in the towns and cities you frequent, making them places for prayer, meditation, and arboreal solace. In addition to hanging out in parks or arboretums, or creating parks and arboretums in vacant lots when no one's looking, you might also be called upon to tend to struggling foliage or sick animals, eliminate threats to natural spaces, or serve as a font of horticultural and biological lore to the folk in the area. So a character named Walnut Dankgrass says, Druids are natural-born leaders. We are beasts of war and shepherds of balance. People might underestimate you for your simple ways, but your teeth will find their flesh all the same. Not that I condone eating your party members, of course. Only when absolutely necessary. Urban sanctuaries. A cemetery that acts as a de facto park. A swampy patch unsuitable for building, teeming with marsh flora and fauna. A ruined section of the city that has been reclaimed by nature. A nature reserve stocked with sacred and confused animals that are hunted for sport. Kitty Bird the Shiny poofs into existence. Welcome, Kitty Bird. Stewards of nature. You know, so creatures that care for things, well, as the description will say here. Though you might split your franchise life between the rural and urban worlds, you never forget the wilderness where you came from. Because you've brought a piece of that wilderness with you, an unusual treasure, or I'm thinking of treasure. An unusual creature that came under your care when you were younger remains a part of your life, whether because you've decided you're the only person who can probably look after it, or vice versa. A 7-legged pygmy giant spider, once used as a pixie's mount. A baby death dog that shows no evil tendencies, yet. A feral cat that thinks it's much tougher than it is. Or a friendly sturge that nests in your backpack and drinks only fruit juice. These are fun, flavorful ways to make your druid different than other druids broadly or within Acquisitions Incorporated. You know, it's giving you permission to think creatively, to think outside the box, to have a little fun, to give your spin on this, not just a druid, but this character in all the nuances that she or he has. Delcorin with advantage, oh my. Hey, and Delcorin scored it, huh? Good evening to you. Whoops. There we go. Closing the circles. Though many druid circles are inspired by and focused on the natural world, even the most woodsy circles can fit into an Acquisitions Incorporated campaign with surprising ease. Now, there are other circles that exist. Just because they're not here doesn't mean you can't take inspiration from these subclasses and apply it to the Circle of Spores out of Ravnica. Fallon was just talking about that. Oh, you drew the comic card also? I'm sorry if I missed it then. Oh, you did. So I owe you another $350. There you go. Circle of Dreams. I'll read one for an example here, but and if you want to read others while I'm narrating, you may. Or Circle of the Land. Here we go. We're talking about woodsy ones. Any organization that wants to make an imprint on the world needs to employ an environmental consultant, ensuring that they're engaging with the land in a sustainable and efficient manner. As a druid of the Circle of the Land, your role in your franchise makes extensive use of your knowledge of nature. Your expertise ensures that the exploits of the franchise don't disturb nature, and just as importantly, prevent nature from disturbing the franchise. And here's examples for how to fit a Circle of Dreams, Circle of the Moon, and Circle of the Shepherd in here. Yo, Old Port. Yep, that, the flame jet roasted you in the dungeon there. Yes, Delcorn, you misplaced your disadvantage, and Old Port Media slipped and fell on it. A fighter. Some fight to slake bloodlust, others fight for the thrill of besting an enemy. Some fight for a code, a faith, or an ideal. But a true pragmatist fights only for coin, understanding that battle is a means to an end, and not an end itself. In itself. A fighter in an Acquisitions Incorporated campaign often fights for money above all else, whether focusing on a primary role as a combat specialist, or providing martial backup for the franchise as needs be. Whether your intention is to end a target's threat, or simply deliver a message, violently or otherwise, those around you can take comfort in knowing that when you take on the job gets done. When your franchise loses its direction or collective nerve, you stand tall with the power of your convictions and even more powerful assortment of weapons to keep things on track. Keep them guessing. No. Hi. How are you? Okay, then. Well, everyone, if you got the emote, you might as well use it. This is what it's here for. Thank you, Kitty Bird. No combat tactic is too down and dirty when your life and the welfare of your franchise are on the line. Smart fighters use any means necessary to gain the edge in battle. Whether those tricks were learned from a longtime drill instructor, used first by an opponent against you, or an original tactic preferred by long hours of training. One of these, swearing, name-calling, political satire, you do it all. You make use of a range of down and dirty fighting epithets that would make an ogre barbarian blush. Thank you all for the cat butts. Wielding the best. It might seem ridiculous to say that your weapon, armor, or shield is your best friend and most stalwart companion, but you'll take that risk. If you had to choose between entering a battle without your favorite combat gear or without the party's bard, Singy McLootface can sit this one out. You and your equipment have got this. Your piece of signature equipment is more than a tool that has never let you down. It lets others know who you are on the battlefield, even when your features are obscured by the blood of the fallen. Remember, it's building the brand, right? You aren't a fighter. You are this particular fighter, just as the Druid had a mark, just as, you know, you're finding these signature things. Hi. All right, are you done huffing? Are we good? I don't know if you could hear him huff on the microphone. You okay? Should I scratch your tail? You're going to put your butt in the air? All right, everything's okay. Apparently just had some fuzz in his throat or something. Hey, Veilfears. You've actually been playing the module. It's been amazing. Well, hey, I'm glad that you said that because we're taking a well, I am anyway. I'm taking a blind look at the rules. We're going through the mechanics, and one thing I won't cover is the adventure because I think that's going to be different for everyone involved. But if you have Veil, if you have some insight, like, oh yeah, I really like the way that this mechanic works, or you know, you want to talk about the growth of your franchise in it and whatnot. I'd appreciate it for sure. And this is a good place to come to for that. So what makes your fighter a signature Acquisitions Incorporated fighter? Or rather, what is your brand of fighting? Handcrafted arrows, whose heads bear the mark of a lightning bolt and which give a distinctive whistle when fired. A suit of armor made from the discarded chitin of giant arthropods. A pair of boots fashioned to look like the paws of a large feline. A bow carved with images of the phases of the moon. Victory is yours. When the battle is done, enemies and allies alike are in awe at the sight of your personal ritual celebration. For example, ale, and then more ale. Adding a commemorative square to your battle quilt. Commissioning a painting of the battle. There is no time to celebrate, for your war is eternal. He's very happy, Delcorn. Breaking the archetypes. To the uninitiated, fighters are the simpletons of the adventuring world, flailing away with their weapons while taking repeated blows to the head. But those folk know precious little about the specialties and subtleties of this class. Many flavors of fighter exist in the world, and all can fit into an Acquisitions Incorporated franchise in their own way. And it's drawing on a lot here, right? Arcane Archer, Battlemaster, Cavalier, and if you see one that's not here, like Purple Dragon Knight, flavor it similarly. Read the others. Get inspiration. This supplement absolutely encourages you to have collective storytelling and to think outside the box of what is normally presented by the rules. Have fun with it. You know, your characters are special. You are running a franchise of Acquisitions Incorporated. And so you're going to have this style. You're going to approach, you know, the battle mastery in a different way. Yes, Khajiit took over the stream. This is now a Tabaxi stream. Help, everyone, help. So let's take a look at the samurai. Even if samurai are rare in the lands where Acquisitions Incorporated offers franchise opportunities, their fighting spirit makes them invaluable additions to any franchise, especially if that spirit encompasses the fight for profits. As a samurai, your impressive combat skills are matched by your social grace and wisdom, providing a boon to your franchise's standing in the community. Any franchise could do worse than having you as its public face, especially when your sense of quiet resolve is needed to quietly resolve some unexpected business disaster. All right, we are at Monk. Monk is what Old Port said had him rolling on the floor. So let's take a look, shall we? Yes, we shall. Some call the unseen energy flowing through all things key. I call it the invisible hand of the marketplace. Now, let's negotiate your surrender. Ki is a magical energy that fills the space between all things in the multiverse. Monks tap into that energy through spiritual and martial training, meditation and contemplation, and punching and kicking. And more punching and kicking, and maybe a headbutt for good measure. Monks in an Acquisitions Incorporated campaign find a way to integrate a typical ascetic life with the grandeur, majesty, and over-the-top business focus of their franchise. History, real and fantasy, has shown that monasteries don't always shy away from engaging in profitable enterprises. As such, your Acquisitions Incorporated monk likely brings their old monastery's entrepreneurial spirit with them, along with new ideas to energize that spirit even more. In my experience, hiring a monk skilled in the art of peaceful arbitration is the only way to attempt to defuse the rather concussive methods of negotiation employed by many Acquisitions Incorporated franchises. And if it comes to it, a monk will at least ensure that the concussions are fairly distributed. Rosie Beestinger. Part of your martial training as a monk sees you adopting a variety of stances during combat. These stances help focus your mind, confuse your enemies, and relieve that strain on your lower back. Alright, so these are your subtle stances. What has your monk stand out in the crowd, in the field of other monks? You're the boisterous brewmaster, hand raised as if making a toast. The hardy harpy, arms flapping wildly while singing, inspires people to leave you alone and good for cooling off on hot days. The ponderous pudding, collapsed in a heap, useful if you're trying to disguise yourself as a drunken fool. Or the incontinent elder, a very dignified post, standing straight, knees together, excellent for surviving those long queues. The writings of famous monks of the past sometimes become holy texts that come to define entire monastic traditions. The monks of your monastery have dedicated their training and their lives to the insight gleaned from an ancient monastic tome. So, whence are you drawing your inspiration? Oracles of the future? The sociable hermit? Gambling with the gods? Plowshares into swords? Life is endless calamities. What are you going to do about it? Now, what about ascetic business practices? Plenty of monasteries turn out business-minded monks. After all, it's not money that's the root of all evil, it's the love of money. So if you just like money, as a friend, then it's all good. Many Ac Inc. franchises actively try to recruit monks into entrepreneurship, knowing of their reputation for versatility both in and out of combat. If you hail from a particularly profitable monastery, you won't need to be convinced of the benefits of a well-run business, you'll already be on board. So what are some commercial monasteries? The Monastery of the Eternal Spirits, legendary distillers. The Crystal Bastion, makers of crystal goblets and ornaments. Monastery of the Wayward Grape, vintners of fine wine. And the Hall of Mysteries, investigators for hire, are samples of how you can be a monk for hire, or some skills that you are bringing from your monastery into your franchise expansion. Non-traditional traditions. The diversity of monk traditions make those traditions different from each other in abilities as well as in attitude. And since an Acquisitions Incorporated franchise runs mostly on attitude, it's important for the philosophy of a monk's monastic tradition to mesh with the philosophy of the franchise. So here we go. Drunken Master, Way of Shadow. Whoop, I didn't want to do that. Way of the Four Elements, Way of the Kensei, Way of the Open Hand, and Way of the Sun Soul. Again, there are others. You might even have a homebrew one. Maybe you went on DM's Guild, and you purchased an independent creator, and also with Wizard of the Coast, they're getting their portion for making it official and distributing it. Think about these. Think about these, how they're described, and apply something of similar humor or open-mindedness to your monk's subclass. For example, Way of the Sun Soul. Many benevolent monks have a reputation for being all punching and sunshine. As a Sun Soul monk, you epitomize this reputation, except for the benevolent part. Whenever a fight is in need of area effect damage, your fellow franchise members understand that you're their best friend in the world. And if your reputation for exploding in anger literally makes for easier negotiations with suppliers and business rivals, so much the better. You purchased your very own creator? What do you mean, Fallon? Next up, we have the Paladin. Monk Stance 8 is great. The Broken Bridge. Face down on the ground with knees bent and posterior up. Reduces visibility to foes in front. And makes a useful ramp for allies to jump off of. Who's a monk? Is that Rosie? It seems so from the quote. Rosie Beestinger? Fallon, can you advise? Fallon is our local, the drawing isn't Rosie, but she's the one that gives the quote. Alright, what of the Paladin? When many hear Paladin, they can't help but envision a knight in shining armor, helping innocent people in distress, and living a life of utmost virtue and chastity. Yawn. In the world of Acquisitions Incorporated, at least some small part of a paladin's dedication is focused on the code of business. Morals and ethics are all good, but an Ac-Inc paladin knows that nothing puts food on the plates of the poor and roofs over the heads of the dispossessed better than cold, hard cash. And virtue and chastity are more guidelines than rules, right? Donner Blitzen is quoted as saying, "Stand up as straight as possible. Being a paladin is mostly about posture, and most people don't realize that. Evil drow slouch, but in this house, we are turgid to the point of discomfort." A personnel bodyguard. All life is sacred. Well, some lives are sacred. Alright, fine. The people you protect are sacred. On certain days, everyone else is negotiable. As an Acquisitions Incorporated paladin, you are dedicated to the protection of your fellow franchisees out of loyalty and duty, and because you can't earn all that sweet coin on your own. In your role as the party's bodyguard, your unmatched training and sense of honor drives you to take untold risks as you put others' lives before your own. Your heavy armor is as fearsome as your heavy morals, and your healing ability, bonus to saving throws, and lack of fear create a trifecta of comfort. Your natural leadership role also comes into play, as the squishier members of your party come to rely on your presence and protection. Every character has a few private matters they'd rather not share, but the truth and honesty stakes usually aren't as high for others as they are for a paladin. If there's any extra drama in your life, chances are it stems from a terrible secret in your background that you need to constantly struggle to keep. What'll happen if your friends and allies learn of your dark past?
5 to Bull, 10 to you.
Hey Shukan, so do you want so you want 5 in the community pool to get minis. The 10, do you want gacha pulls with those? Now, what are some terrible secrets that, or I don't know if you want to, real quick, Shukan, I have an entire box filled with other boxes. I have sealed bricks of Storm King's Thunder, Dragon Heist, Monster Menagerie 1, and, Dungeon of the Mad Mage. Before taking your paladin oath, you accidentally publicly humiliated a good friend. You've sworn to make it up to them despite them wanting nothing to do with you. You once belonged to an organization that was eventually banned because a typo in its name made it appear sedacious. If anyone discovers this, you run the risk of being mistaken for an enemy of the realm. Oof, what a secret. A fixer of problems. When problems arise as a result of your franchise's operations and... Oh.
No, the extra money is to you for whatever you need. Chat is being wonky, so I can't type normally.
Oh, alright, Shukan. Well, thank you very much. I'll update this right now then. So the pool for people who want minis, whether those are gacha pulls or you want to do a first dibs box or a full pull, we're at 23. And Shukan, thank you very much for the little bit of spare cash on the side for the September stretch. That's very nice of you. And by the way, for those of you who are holding on to minis, Shukan is looking to trade, and Shukan has an amazing variety of minis right now. An amazing variety of minis to trade. And Shukan, don't forget, you can always trade with me if there's things that you want out of the orphanage. And also, depending on the minis that you have, I might be able to give you like a trade credit value, and I might be able to give you what I call a store credit value, where if you wanted to trade in towards sealed boxes or the like, then we could arrange that. Though, I mean, of course, it's not like a 1-for-1. If it's a $10 mini, I can't give you 10 on it, just as that's how stores like mine operate. Shukan, yes, Shukan has been a frequent adopter of minis, a large collection. But you know what, Delcorin, Shukan has traded with a lot of people, and has been, I think, generous. Not that you're giving away anything. I don't mean it like that, Shukan. If you're listening, but if there's something you want from Shukan, send a message. Trade. There's nothing wrong with saying, hey, you know what? You have this one piece. Are you willing to take this other thing that I have? Or I don't know. You could even say, can I PayPal you $2 for it or something? And you know, as long as both of you tell me what you want to trade, that's what you want to trade. I think Shukan has a tabaxi. You can always check the pull list on the miniature section of our Discord, too. So, of course, you got to have some legendary catchphrases, right? Action star. There's only one way out of this pickle, and that's by breaking a few jars. We've got a real game of cat and mouse here, so it's time to eat some cheese. Is that all I've got? Surrender is my middle name, but it was a family thing and I never use it. Sowing your oaths. I love the wordplay. So here's the take on some paladin subclasses. Let's take a look at the Oath of Vengeance. Remember, read these, of course, savor them for the humor, and think about this. What other subclasses are you running that you can sort of step sideways with and enhance by thinking about it in this fun take, or this alternate way of, using the mechanics in a fun, fluffy new way. Fallon, you might need, because Shukan said in the message that chat was being weird, you might need to send Shukan a private message on Discord, which should be easy enough to do, because Shukan actually left a comment in the mini section, and so you should be able to tap on that and maybe send Shukan a message there. You can avoid looking at the list. Well, I mean, I understand. I don't want you to succumb to temptation if it puts you into, a bit of a pinch, Delcorin, but I want to encourage you all, when you see Trustaflumph, who is sitting on a bunch of minis, Shukan, Macabre Derek, they have these minis, but they're certainly open-minded to trade. Now, there might be some minis that they say, no, I'm building a collection of these. But it doesn't harm in asking, hey, I see that you have X. Can I offer you Y? Like, we're talking business, right? We're talking Acquisitions Incorporated. This is excellent Acquisitions Incorporated practice here, my friends. The fury brought to bear by an Oath of Vengeance paladin fits well into most Acquisitions Incorporated campaigns. Those who break contracts, renege on deals, fail to repay debts, or otherwise break their word can expect a visit from you in your role as the Executor of Vengeance. And if your fellow franchisees can make a bit of profit by picking up the pieces when your job is done, then everyone's happy. Now we are at Zaranger. All that is gold does not glitter, but frankly, if you've got the choice, take the glittering gold every time. That non-shiny stuff loses a ton of resale value. Loving nature, exploring the wilderness, companioning with animals, most people wouldn't view these things as obvious assets for the rough and tumble business of running an Acquisitions Incorporated franchise. But most people are wrong about everything. Few AC Inc. franchises set their roots or undertake all of their business in urban areas. As such, countless adventurers will call a franchise into the wilds, where a qualified ranger makes the difference between forlorn failure and fabulous success. Even when a franchise engages in commerce in the cities and towns of the realm, a ranger's keen senses, sharp blades, and flesh-seeking arrows will never find a lack of use. Control the market. The notion of being a defender is core to your identity as a ranger. As a member of Acquisitions Incorporated, you channel your nature proclivity for protectiveness into a razor-sharp focus on the franchise. Pure profit is never an end in and of itself, but whatever deep-seated personal goals you only ever talk about in the dead of night over a dying fire, those goals need financing. Animals are everywhere. The balance of nature is no less strong within civilization than it is in the wilds, and the streets and sewers of towns and cities are their own thriving ecosystem. As a ranger who spends part of your time in urban settings, you quickly learn to seek out the companionship of some of the many beasts that inhabit these settings. A rat, a skunk, possum, a giant beetle. No weapons allowed. Your instinctive ability to blend into the natural background has applications even outside the wilderness. During business meetings with rivals or attempts to play nice with the nobility, being forbidden from carrying weapons doesn't slow you down. Whether you channel your enemy's impending destruction through mundane equipment, thoughtful gifts, or a packed lunch, you and your improved weapons are always ready for action. So, what was the disguised weapon that you carry? The roasted drumstick of a huge bird. Use it as a great club longsword if the shard of bone is broken off. A long loaf of stale bread. Use it as a mace. Right? This is giving you permission to think outside the box, to have fun. A metal-tipped crutch is a great sword or a spear. A large bottle of wine, mace, short sword if shattered. Places to go. As you do those rangery things you do, you've had the opportunity to travel to many exotic and exciting locales. But there's one place you just keep coming back to. What's a point of interest? What's something fascinating to your character? Right? Roleplay with it. It builds the world for you as the player, and it helps the DM as well. A temple built to honor a dark god long abandoned. A secret cove a few hours north of town that's a known meeting spot for pirates. An unnamed hill where a ruined tower appears at midnight, then vanishes again at dawn. You had a martial arts instructor that defended herself with an umbrella once. That's a neat story, Fallon, and hopefully it ended well for her. No serious injuries. 5 stars disguised weapon as a ranger. 2 skunks strapped in gauntlets. Oh, see, Fi's getting into it. There we go. So what are some of the subclasses here? How can you become an Acquisitions Incorporated brand, whatever, Horizon Walker? Every Acquisitions Incorporated franchise needs to be ready to travel at a moment's notice, with franchisees always rushing headlong into the next amazing opportunity. As a Horizon Walker, you're a master of travel, blazing trails into unknown realms by passing through the even more unknown realms of the planes. Whatever path your franchise walks, your combat and magical skill helps ensure a safe journey for you and your companions. Moreover, the unknown reaches of the world are the best places to find new resources, and no one knows more about the unknown than you. Right? You have known knowns, you have known unknowns, and then you have your unknown unknowns. Swung it around like a ninja, and they ceased to be interested in mugging her. Well, I'm glad then she wasn't mugged. Oh my goodness. Hey, but that's why you take those classes. Are you still practicing martial arts, Fallon? I mean, if not, that's fine. But just it's interesting to hear people's stories from either self-defense classes or the like. Ah, the rogue. I know you went through all those documents pretty quickly, and now you're probably asking yourself, wait, did I sign 6 addenda or only 5? So you've got to ask yourself one question. Do I feel properly contractually represented? Well, do you, punk? A rogue is often the backbone of any successful adventuring party, providing an ample amount of martial prowess, a diverse skill set, and a pat on the back for a job well done, with or without a dagger in it. In an Acquisitions Incorporated franchise, a rogue's talents are even more in demand. Not only is the rogue the first one into the dragon's lair, and the last one out after securing away the choicest bits of treasure first, but their keen eye for details and their practiced social skills make them equally invaluable in the boardrooms, the tap rooms, and the back alleys where business gets done. In the world of Acquisitions Incorporated, dangers are as likely to be as contractual as physical. Avoiding a trap's pressure plate in a dungeon is good. Avoiding an awkward social situation might be even more important. Explosive runes warding a treasure chest go off once, but maybe no one spotted them. Big deal. But a rogue who notices a carefully worded legal trap in a document or a contract can save their franchise from long-lasting harm. And a rogue who can insert such details into someone else's contract is worth their weight in performance bonuses. Hey, English Mudkip, thank you very much for that host. Phi Saris, I'm noticing a pattern. Sadly, no, it's been a good few years back when I was in college. I'm hoping to get back into it someday. A rogue documancer. Yeah, the documancer was a very interesting role in the franchise. I liked it, Fallon. Greetings, English Mudkip. We're talking about rogues, and we're talking about rogues specifically in Acquisitions Incorporated. So, what's a favorite trophy? How do you make your character unique? Why are you your rogue and not just a rogue? couple examples that are offered, and there's plenty more you can come up with as well. A silver goblet from the kitchens of a castle in a wealthy land. It still smells of the wonderful burgundy that was in it when you stole it. A gold-tipped fountain pen stolen from the breast pocket of a royal wizard. A small statue of a ballerina broken off from a marble fountain in a city from which you're now banned. The solid, gold-hammered holy symbol of that one rude blacksmith who refused to fix your sword. A full potion bottle from the Temple of Ogma marked drink in case of emergency. So far, no one has dared you to drink it. Now, you might also have some old business ties. More advanced talents, however, are generally taught through one of the many criminal guilds that crop up in towns and cities throughout the land. As an Acquisitions Incorporated rogue, you definitely left your guild in order to join a franchise, for no rogue can serve two masters, at least not officially. So, former guild, the Terrible Dumplings, an all-halfling guild whose cover identities are acrobats. The Charhawks, whose front operation is a well-known cleaning service. The Undead Rangers, whose cover is that they have nothing to do with rangers or the undead. Or the Robust Vultures, who make use of flying magic for specialty jobs. Now we are looking into... Alright, so yeah, you're a rogue, and we've established your separate rogue-like identity. Now what about your subclass, right? An Inquisitive, a Mastermind, a Scout, a Swashbuckler, an Assassin, an Arcane Trickster? Let's take a look at Swashbuckler as the red example. Though, of course, I would urge you, pick up this supplement. Give it a read. If you need to, I mean, some of these are going to be on screen while I'm reading, and you could take a look. The one-on-one fighting style of a Swashbuckler is a perfect fit for the stylish bravado that befits an Acquisitions Incorporated franchise. Your mobility, audacity, and charm offer versatility in any number of situations, from infiltration to theft, to fleeing the city guards when the infiltration and theft goes bad. Moreover, your social skills make you equally effective in and out of combat. However, your love of showing off means that you might have to work at not turning every social encounter into a combat encounter just because you can. High security theft prevention, tame a few mimics. You see, you had me going because I was thinking we're talking skunks, unless you want to put skunks in the mimics. You know, you defeat the mimics, they collapse, and their contents are disgorged, and a skunk rolls out. Immediately, it defends itself the best way it knows how. Oh, English Mudkip, this has been a very fun... sort of set of considerations. I don't want to call them rules. Sure, you play by Acquisitions Incorporated, you know, a set of guidelines and such. But the way that this is approaching it is through group storytelling. Like, they really want you to think. They want you to have fun and make it your game. Yes, they're presenting Acquisitions Incorporated. This is your franchise. Your adventure using these rules. And it's okay to think outside of the suggestions that they offer. Now, what about a sorcerer? A sorcerer's use of magic runs the range from chaotic to catastrophic, which suits the style of many Acquisitions Incorporated franchises alarmingly well. When a loud and emphatic marketing statement needs to be made using magic, trust a sorcerer to do the talking. And with natural charisma powering their magic, a sorcerer also makes a good public face for a franchise, with their darker or more chaotic tendencies either hidden or amplified, depending on the need. Your natural charisma makes you the obvious choice to be the leader of your franchise. Others look to you constantly for inspiration, even if they're afraid to show it. And that's a good fit for you, because if you can tell others what to do and have them listen to you, it's easier to give the most dangerous frontline tasks to them, while you can cast from the back and reap the rewards. Focusing with flair. Again, this is your sorcerer. Here's a table of suggestions that could provide you a reason that makes you distinct. You have a stuffed weasel with fake diamonds for eyes. A pair of silver spectacles whose lenses change color based on the school of spell you're casting. A shrunken gnome head that blinks and sticks its tongue out occasionally. Ooh. The antler stub of a periton decorated with nymph hair and pixie dust. Right? You have a cool implement. This is how you're getting the magic out of yourself. You drew Jim Dark Magic? Oh, was there... I'm sorry if I missed... If I missed a quote that you all wanted to see, let me know. I'll go back. Now, you have personal magic. When you cast a spell, you go all in, channeling that magic through body and soul. Often leftover magic from the casting manifests as a residual effect that can build up over repeated uses of your spells and cantrips. Some residual effects are subtle, others are obvious to the point of distraction, but any such effect might eventually become a kind of spellcasting signature, ensuring that everyone knows the tenor of your magic as well as they know your name. Remember branding. It's all about the branding. Ah, Jim is a wizard? Well, we'll probably see a quote from him then. A smell just slightly less noxious than troglodyte musk wafts off you from time to time. At random, your speech and movement suggest that you are blind drunk. Your eyes glow for 1 minute, cycling intermittently through red, blue, and green. Your fingernails grow out to gnarled talons. This nail growth falls off after 10 minutes, or if you touch something. Origins make the Sorcerer. Again, take your subclass, make it fun, make it unique. Shadow magic, wild magic. Let's look at the Divine Soul. As a Divine Soul, you have a special place in your franchise. Just as with the child of a wealthy business owner or an heir to a noble throne, your lineage and breeding demand respect, and your job is to make sure your franchise mates understand that. Your success is obtained or is ordained by the gods themselves, and you embrace that destiny by mastering the ways of business and adventuring, becoming the best that you can be. That sounds pretty good. The Warlock. No, you don't understand. My magic exists outside of any known reality. I wield the power of an entity that dwells beyond space and time. Clearly, none of the profits created by that magic are taxable in this realm. A Warlock can be an authoritative asset to an Acquisitions Incorporated franchise, as their known association with powerful otherworldly forces makes for a great starting point in tough business negotiations. Likewise, a Warlock's pact is the definitive binding contract, providing a unique insight into matters of debt and obligation. The only thing you need to watch out for is making sure your work-life balance is in order. You want to be seen by your staff as the suave, fashionable master of your franchise's occult services, not the creepy weirdo with the glowing eyes, always chuckling maniacally to yourself. As convenient as it might seem, remember that interns are not automatically potential sacrifices. Always check the individual contract first. A quote from Kithris Draub. Eldritch affectations. Being beholden to a strange otherworldly entity gives you a certain style that none can match. Sometimes this style takes the form of an interesting quirk that makes you the memorable master of the dark arts that you are. Every meal you must involve copious amounts of raw onions. You can't bear to touch anything valuable without wearing gloves. You have to slap some creature roughly before you can get a good night's sleep. When you cast a spell, the verbal or somatic components must involve mild obscenity. Oh my. When people call you by your correct name, you constantly admonish them by telling them your correct name. The Master of Idiom. As a warlock, you bring every dark aspect of your dark path and darker calling to bear darkly on your franchise's operations. Wrapping yourself in mysterious defensive power or tagging an enemy in the face with an Eldritch Blast are just as valuable for corporate espionage and for tomb raiding. Or as for tomb raiding. How you present yourself to the world at large is often a subtle reflection of your patron. Being a member of an Acquisitions Incorporated franchise means you have no trouble wearing suitable business apparel to make the right impression. But whether that stylish suit is made from fine Kalimshan silk or the flayed skin of fiends is totally up to you. Marketing is everything. There's an old Luskan saying they could sell water to a Sahagin and it would come back for a refill. And that's you in a nutshell. So what's your cool motto, right? If ABC always be closing, or in this case, always be casting. What is your cool motto as the corporate warlock? I don't break even, I get even. I'm the prophet of profit, and I've got a prediction for success. To err is human, so I'm not. No matter what your pact, the process of binding yourself to power has prepared you well for a life of acquisitions incorporated. So here's our Archfey, Celestial Fiend, Great Old One, Hexblade. Which one am I going to read? I'm going to roll a d4 for this one. 1d4. 3. Celestial Fiend, Great Old One. Everybody's met that one mind-addled poet at the end of the bar spouting all kinds of nonsense. But only you can really appreciate the truth of what they're talking about. As a warlock of the Great Old One, you harness the power of unreality and madness for the benefit of your franchise. You are known for consistently offering up plans and advice that go outside the box. Way outside. And then your plans turn to profit. Your franchise partners are thankfully there to take care of all that balance sheet and coffer practical stuff. Hey, you're more about the big, insane ideas, really. And lastly, we have the Wizard. Yes, I can get you inside that vault. I can locate that secret treasure you're all hyped up about. I can get you out with no collateral damage. I'm fine if you care less about the no collateral damage thing. Now, let's get down to business. The utility that a wizard brings to an Acquisitions Incorporated operation is obvious to franchise members, staff, clients, and rivals alike. Defensive spells, arcane travel rituals, Eldritch utility magic, a wizard does it all. Plus, they'll blow things up when needed. And not surprisingly, things in an Acquisitions Incorporated campaign need to get blown up a lot. It's easy to make the case that arcane magic is the most valuable component in any franchise, business plan, or strategic roadmap. And as a wizard, you're the premium vendor of advantageous arcane services. Just make sure that staff and intern contracts have strong language regarding the risk of friendly fire, but in the small print, way down there at the bottom. Eldritch utility, though a wizard encompasses a single class, the study of arcane magic lends itself to a broad range of specialization. As such, it's not enough to simply dedicate yourself to being the best wizard you can be. It's about figuring out which wizardly path best addresses your franchise's potential needs. Enchanters and illusionists in the service of a franchise can boggle the minds of enemies and allies. Transmuters, conjurers, and necromancers ensure that franchise members always have the right tool or monster for the job. Abjurers and diviners can help avoid catastrophic events before they happen, and evokers and war mages, no one needs to be reminded of the simple yet devastating majesty of a fireball spell. Well, they don't need to be reminded more than once. Your use of magic is always clean and precise, still tapping directly into the weave. Remember, this is set in Faerun on Toril in the Forgotten Realms. Tapping directly into the weave to reshape reality or burn it to the ground as an eventual effect on the mind, and your sleep is often haunted by a recurring nightmare whose indelible images you cannot shake. Aha, here's the quote from Jim Darkmagic. No wizard will ever take offense to a polite round of applause from the rest of the party after a particularly well-crafted spell. Alright, so your study of magic, they're saying it gives you some lingering nightmares. What kind of a nightmare does your wizard have? You know, what secrets have been unlocked in your mind that it just has to go through again or process? A franchise staff member has gained a huge inheritance and retired. A note signed by you indicates that you withdrew the same huge amount of cash from the company accounts the day before, but you have no memory of doing so. You feel the pleasant tickling of feathers. Then look up to find a cockatrice preening on your chest. Uh-oh. Hopefully it doesn't see you back. All your pockets have been torn open, but you can't stop placing valuable objects in them. Each time an object falls out of a pocket, you pick it up, then put it in the pocket again. Whoa! Who is your arcane master? Who... Again, you create an NPC with this. It's wonderful for world building. It hooks you into the world, the plot, and helps you set a route down in the location where you're going to be building your franchise. So let's see. Dame Melna Rothburton Berryville, a 238-year-old elf croquet player and evoker, and hero of the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 5th, and 6th Troll Wars. She was out on maternity leave during the 4th. Oh my. Rennie the Hare, a halfling enchanter with an odd fondness for carrots. You ate a lot of carrots as an apprentice. You don't much like carrots anymore. Or Sylvester Delaguay, a human necromancer whose greatest possession was a portrait painted by an ex-student said to capture his green eyes perfectly. In truth, Sylvester was colorblind and the portrait's eyes are bloodshot red. No one has ever told him. Matriculating from the schools of magic. Alright, so there's all 8, and then there's also war magic. War magic. Success in business requires prudent caution and take charge offense in equal measure. As a war mage, your focus on abjuration and evocation is thus a good fit for success. Many war mages feel it is their duty to waste their lives, sometimes literally, on the battlefield. But you specialize in the more subtle conflicts of the marketplace, where you can take your skills to a whole new level. You cast spells under pressure, never blinking in the face of death or financial ruin. And when it's necessary, you can blow up an adversary like nobody's business. Just make sure your franchise's collateral damage insurance is all up to date. You know what? I'm still good to go. I forgot a drink, so my voice is getting a little raspy here. But why don't we take a look at the new race of the Verdun? The Verdun owe their existence to chaos, descended and transformed from a large clan of goblins and hobgoblins. Those who became the Verdun were simply living their lives doing goblinoid things, but then passing through the shadow of that which endures changed them forever. Now the newest race to call Faerun home, the Verdun do their best to find their way in an unfamiliar world. When the power of that which endures mutated the Verdun, their skin was turned the color of jade and their blood began to flow black. Their ears grew pointed and they gained a limited form of telepathy, but at the cost of forgetting their history. The underground homes of the goblins were places of terror to the new creatures these goblins became, and the Verdun quickly fled to the surface and into the sunlight. When they arrived in the new lands on the surface, the Verdun found that they were often mistaken for smaller green-skinned half-elves, attracting curiosity but no real questions. They have thus been able to make their way reasonably freely in the world. Because the Verdun have not dwelled long in the world, they are still discovering new things about themselves. Chief among these discoveries is that their physical forms change as they age, signifying that the mutative power of that which endures is not done with them. The first Verdun emerged from the Underdark as creatures of goblin stature, but they soon learned that their kind were fated to eventually undergo a dramatic, painful, and random growth spurt that sees them transform to hobgoblin size over a period of days. That's got to be painful. At the same time, many Verdun undergo changes in coloring as they age. Male Verdun typically have little to no hair, while females sport shocks of wiry hair that they try to tame in a variety of styles. But the color of any Verdun's hair, skin, and eyes can transform from the original jade tones to pale white, deep ebon, or any other shade between. A Verdun's ears also undergo numerous spontaneous alterations in their lifetime, from the typical range of point and peak seen among the elves to huge ears that sweep back from the head like wings, and which are often pierced behind the head with a single ring to keep them from flapping about. Changes in gender are also known and accepted part of Verdun life. These fluid aspects of form and identity are seen as blessings, allowing an individual to experience more of the world and grow in empathy and understanding. There is no pattern to any Verdun's mutations, as Verdun from the same family can shift in drastically different ways. The Verdun assign no cultural or biological relevance to any particular coloration, physical feature, or gender. Cultural chameleons. The clan homes of the Underdark goblinoids who became the Verdun covered an enormous area. As the Verdun fled to the surface world, they emerged in culturally diverse locations. Some found themselves near dwarven strongholds, others near elven enclaves, and others near the widespread human settlements of Faerun. A quick note about That Which Endures. That Which Endures is a nameless, faceless, mysterious entity, something between a multiverse-spanning primordial spirit and an overgod. It represents the amoral and all-encompassing power of entropy, the force that unknowingly and uncaringly changes order into chaos, and that breaks matter and time down into its component parts so that it can all be rebuilt. Some who study this entity claim that it is clearly evil and destructive. Others call it simply a necessary part of the cycle of death and rebirth. In the end, though, That Which Endures shows precious little interest in what people say about it. Without a cultural identity or memory of their own, the Verdun quickly adopted the cultural practices of the areas into which they migrated. Still, a sense of not truly belonging is felt even by Verdun who have been welcomed into other cultures. They are often stricken with wanderlust, keeping their possessions limited and easily portable. It is not unusual to see individual Verdun or whole families trooping along the roads of the world with their tents and belongings strapped to their backs. Even when they are happily steeped in a culture, the Verdun remain on the lookout for oppression and curtailment of freedoms. They understand the need for laws that protect, but they rail against laws that restrict and oppress, especially those designed to protect the power and wealth of the elite. When living among enlightened folk, Verdun are still the first to speak out against cultural restraints on individuals, particularly those based on physical characteristics such as gender, race, or appearance. Verdun are hungry to undertake new challenges and absorb new experiences. When they meet other Verdun who have traveled to different parts of the world, they drop everything to spend as long as possible sharing stories and observations from their respective travels. However, their inexperience in the world and their racial amnesia sometimes lends the Verdun to a kind of innocence that works against them. Some are curious and easily fooled by hucksters, but most Verdun have an intuition bred by empathy that helps them eventually sort out those who are insincere from those who are not. Hey, Shukan. Hey, there, yeah, Shukan is here. Young Tasteful. Yeah, you forgot about these guys? Yeah, Fallon, or Shukan, Fallon had a question for you. Can you tell us a little bit more? Because Fallon, you are acting as our Acquisitions Incorporated historian. Um, can you talk a little bit more about what is hinted at in the text? Verdun sound like they got hit by a random evolution curse. It's what it sounds like. They're goblins living in the Underdark. A big ball of random hit them, and now they're just sort of a drifting, changing people. The oldest Verdun names spring from the goblinoid traditions, but more recent names reflect the character of the different cultures these folk have encountered since coming out into the sunlight. When a group of Verdun live near dwarves, they might take on more dwarven-sounding names, only to change those names when they wander into a human area. A Verdun is also not hesitant to change their name as their physical appearance changes, or indeed whenever the mood strikes them. Verdun make no differentiation between male, female, and family names, and often eschew family names altogether. And so here's some names that you could either probably find equivalents on the other races' name charts. When a Verdun character gains an ability score improvement at certain levels, that increase can be tied to a physical mutation at the player's determination. A boost of strength might be accompanied by a growth spurt and the development of rippling muscle, while an increase in intelligence might produce a stylishly large forehead. All right, Verdun traits. We're getting down. Here are the nuts and bolts. Your con goes up by 1 and your charisma by 2. So a con charisma. Reach adulthood at 24, and thought they might live to nearly 200 years old. However, because no Verdun has died of old age since the race's initial creation, their upper age limits remain subject to speculation. All Verdun are generally good. I mean, whatever. You could have an evil Verdun. I'm not worried about that. Size, Verdun start out similar in size to the goblins they're created from, but at some point after reaching maturity, each Verdun undergoes a sudden growth spurt of 2 feet or more. At first level, you are a small creature. When you reach 5th level, you become a medium creature. That's pretty cool. Base speed of 30 feet. Black blood healing. The black blood that is a sign of your people's connection to that which endures boosts your natural healing. When you roll a 1 or a 2 on any hit die you spend at the end of a short rest, you can re-roll that die and must use the new roll. Limited telepathy. You can telepathically speak to any creature you can see within 30 feet of you. You don't need to share a language with the creature for it to understand your telepathy, but it must be able to understand at least one language. This process of communication is slow and limited, allowing you to transmit and receive only simple ideas and straightforward concepts. Persuasive. Your people's lack of history makes you trustworthy and humble. You have proficiency in the persuasion skill. Telepathic insight. Your mind's connection to the world around you strengthens your will. You have advantage on all wisdom and charisma saving throws. That's pretty good. You speak, read, and write Common, Goblin, and one additional language of your choice. This language typically has some connection to one of the areas that or the cultures that have been a part of your life. That makes sense. So let's see. I don't think it's broken. Con by 1, charisma by 2. I mean, we can see that they're going to tend towards, bards are the traveling folk, freedom. They want to learn about things. The black blood would lend them to make pacts as warlocks, or this magical existence of change would make them into sorcerers. Paladins, would fight on the behalf of the other people. So it fits what might be more often paired with them than not. The black blood healing I don't think is broken. Limited telepathy, I don't think that's broken at all. It's vague enough that you could interpret it in different ways by different DMs. But it just says keep it simple. Persuasive, telepathic insight. I mean, you might say that the wisdom and charisma are, that might be strong, but at the same time, look at this. What do gnomes get? They get advantage to all spell saves. Or no, it's int Shaw Whiz. So if any of you are getting held back or held up on telepathic insight, they're certainly more magic resistant, but they're not the most magic resistant. Shukan asks what boxes are available. All right, so Shukan, I hope you're ready. I have I have 15 boxes of Dungeon of the Mad Mage. I have 16 boxes, so 2 sealed bricks of Storm King's Thunder. I have 8, so a sealed brick of Dragon Heist. And then I have 10 Monster Menagerie 1s. They had a sealed brick at their warehouse and randomly two spare boxes. And so I told them, yeah, just I'll buy you out. And so I got the 2 spare boxes of Monster Menagerie 1. I'm sorry. And Ravnica, I have 12. I have 4 from a previous brick, and then I have another sealed brick of Ravnica here. Yeah, Dragon Heist is 11/18. Fallon is dropping a lore bomb. Fi says Verdans sound like they got hit. Oh yeah, so that was that. So without too much spoiling, that which endures is one of several deities or powers that were imprisoned by an Eldritch being, in prison. That which endures was released with the help of a prophet who was leading the goblins. When that which endures was released, instead of blessing this prophet, it blessed all the goblins, evolving them into something different. The prophet did not take this well. Young Tasteful was a goblin guide that the party had who became a sort of de facto leader of the Verdun. Or I guess of the Verdan. Fallon's bringing you all lore bombs. Thank you, Fallon. So let's see. We have... All right. I think we can finish this up. Let's take a look at some of the new spells that are here. And then we'll take a break. Jim Dark Magic says, I don't do magic, I am magic. Also, Jim's Magic Missile is an ancient... Oh.
Zwei Dagon Hoists.
All right, it's a new brick. Which, if you want to roll a d8 twice, or what would you like to do? We have 1, 2, 3, 4 in the front row, then we have 5, 6, 7, 8 in the back. Which 2 boxes would you like, Shukan? Hey, Hark, welcome. You just rolled in from Critical Role. How was the episode? We're just finishing up Acquisitions Incorporated here, and Shukan is getting the first 2 boxes out of a brick of Dragon Heist. Jim's Magic Missile is an ancient and powerful spell, as well as being the name of my band in Wizard Academy. All right. Oh, Distort Value. That was the one that that y'all were talking about. Do you need to squeeze a few more gold pieces out of a merchant as you try and sell that weird octopus statue liberated from the Chaos Temple? Do you need to downplay the worth of some magical assets when the tax collector stops by? Distort Value as you covered. You cast this spell on an object no more than 1 foot on a side, doubling the object's perceived value by adding illusory flourishes or polish to it, or reducing its perceived value by half, with the help of illusory scratches, dents, and other unsightly features. Anyone examining the object can ascertain its true value. Oh, why do I have hiccups? With a successful intelligence investigation check against your spell save DC. That can get you in a lot of trouble, by the way. I had in a prior campaign, it was 3rd edition, there was a spell kind of like that. And counterfeiting money isn't usually looked upon kindly. And when they discovered that they were counterfeiting, they had the law after them for some time, and word was getting out that there was a gnome that was going around changing the value of coins. So it's something, if you're really good or really subtle, you can get away with it. But ooh, be careful, especially in this world. In a world where Distort Value exists, canny merchants or even tax collectors are going to have magic detecting devices or other spells, and they're gonna sense that you're masking this with illusion. So something like this could be fun. Just watch out. Fast friends. You can set the creature new tasks with a. Oh, I'm sorry. The fluff was also incorporated into the crunch here. When you cast this spell, choose one humanoid within range that can see and hear you, and that can understand you. The creature must succeed on a wisdom saving throw or become charmed by you for the duration. While the creature is charmed in this way, it undertakes to perform any services or activities you ask of it in a friendly manner to the best of its ability. You can set the creature new tasks with when a previous task is completed, or if you decide to end its current task. If the service or activity might cause harm to the creature, or if it conflicts with the creature's normal activities and desires, the creature can make another wisdom saving throw to try and end the effect. The save is made with advantage if you or your companions are fighting the creature. Concentration up to an hour. Fast friends can work. With the resistant to charm, there might be a pattern that your franchise doesn't seem to have a lot of people of Fey heritage. Gnomes kind of have their own thing, right, with the saves in that regard. Hey, Vincent Paul, too. Welcome, and thank you very much for the follow. So, if someone notices that your franchise distinctly lacks elves, half-elves, Fey, or gnomes, and even other races that are normally, not as susceptible to being charmed, you might get in trouble. Hashtag just saying. And so, by the way, so here's also the spells as they're assigned by class here. Interesting. I wonder why they put wizard spells before warlock spells. Takes the same amount of space, but it's not alphabetical. Not that that's a huge issue. Hashtag anyway. Gift of Gab. When you cast this spell, you skillfully reshape the memories of listeners in your immediate area, so that each creature of your choice within 5 feet of you forgets everything you said within the last 6 seconds. Those creatures then remember that you actually said the words you speak as the verbal component of the spell. I like that has a good roleplay element to it as well. Incite Greed. When you cast a spell, you present the gem used as a material component and choose any number of creatures within range that can see you. Each target must succeed a wisdom saving throw or be charmed by you until the spell ends, or until you or your companions do anything harmful to it. While charmed in this way, a creature can do nothing but use its movement to approach you in a safe manner. While an affected creature is within 5 feet of you, it cannot move, but simply stares greedily at the gem you present. At the end of each of its turns, an affected target can make a wisdom saving throw. If it succeeds, the effect ends for the target. Jim's Glowing Coin. When you cast this spell, you hurl the coin that is the spell's material component to any spot within range. The coin lights up as if under the effect of a light spell. Each creature of your choice that you can see within 30 feet of the coin must succeed on a wisdom saving throw or be distracted for the duration. While distracted, a creature is disadvantaged to perception checks and initiative rolls. I like that. Yeah, like, hey, bing! You throw the coin out and you can sneak past. I like that. Jim's Magic Missile. Any apprentice wizard can cast a boring old magic missile. Sure, it always strikes the target. Yawn. Do away with the drudgery of your grandfather's magic with this improved version of the spell as used by Jim Dark Magic. You create 3 twisting, whistling, hypoallergenic, gluten-free darts of magical force. Each dart targets a creature of your choice that you can see within range. Make a ranged spell attack for each missile. On a hit, a missile deals 2d4 damage to its target. If the attack roll scores a critical hit, the target of that missile takes 5d4 force damage instead of you rolling damage twice. If the attack roll for any missile is a 1, all missiles miss their targets and blow up in your face, dealing 1 force damage per missile to you. Interesting. It's a first level evocation. I don't think it's necessarily overpowered compared to normal magic missile. Especially with some of the drawbacks. You wasted your spell slot and you took damage. I mean, doing some mental math, I don't think offhand that... I mean, sure, you're getting 2 dice per missile. Though you have the chance to actually miss and waste the slot. Oh, the back 2? Well, I'll draw it for you in a second, Shukan, as we're coming to the end of this segment here. Motivational Speech. You address allies, staff, or innocent bystanders to exhort and inspire them to greatness, whether they have anything to get excited about or not. Choose up to 5 creatures within range that can hear you. For the duration, each affected creature gains 5 temporary hit points and has advantage on wisdom saving throws. If an affected creature is hit by an attack, it has advantage on the next attack roll it makes. Once an affected creature loses the temporary hit points granted by the spell ends for that creature. 3rd level. Off the cuff, initial impression, it seems fine to me. All right, so here are some rival factions. This would be something... This is going to be something for you to read. This isn't necessarily player options. Though this is presenting, look, you're going to have rivals, right? Coke has Pepsi, or Pepsi has Coke, depending on how you look at it. Toyota has Honda. Apple doesn't have competition because it's just an insular cult. Hey, the Grizz, welcome. Yeah, exactly, Grizz. So it seems like a lot of damage up front, especially if you do things to manipulate it, get advantage on all of it. Sure, it can be more powerful. Though I think, look, doing the mental math and kind of going off my gut feeling as a player for so long, I think it's going to deal average damage. It's just a little higher risk for a higher reward. And it can quite literally blow up in your face. So here are some rival groups. I would suggest you read about these. This is lore specific to Acquisitions Incorporated. And if you run this, if you run the concept in your own homebrew campaign, then come up with your own The Six, or the Noble Knife, or the Silver Sliver, and give some competition to your own group. because that will spur on innovation. All right, everyone, I'm gonna get up and take a quick little boop, like a 5-minute walk around, maybe get some nice cold water, get something on my vocal cords here. When we come back, I owe Shukan 2 boxes. Two boxes of Waterdeep Dragon Heist minis. And when you say the back 2, so we have, 1, 2, 3, 4 going from right to left. Do you want 5, 6, 7, or 8? Hey, Technotron, awesome to see you here, brother. Yeah, I will get some nice cold water, Technotron. Believe you me. I have a fan just off to my side. It feels amazing, but it's drying me out, all the talking, and I didn't get this. And on top of my last break, I had some very hot salsa. So my voice is a little raspy and has turned into a hurting puppy. And with Empowered Evocation, you add your int mod to each hit. Yeah, it's still, I don't think that breaks it. But Grizz, thank you for adding those notes. And for everyone out there, I will be right back. Hold on tight and, get a snack of your own. I don't share. Bleh.